Hello.
All right.
Hi.
It's really cold in this room, so we're all bundled up.
Yes. It happens sometimes. To cool off all the equipment in the studio, so.
But yeah, cooling off our brains too. Well, today we're talking about Virginia Woolf,
Yes, sir.
and the question is, what does Woolf mean when she says that a woman needs money and a room of her own to write? And I guess the other question is, how do these things enable writing?
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Just.
I just posed the question.
Okay, so
Yeah.
I'm a lead of these talk for today. So, for me, like, to sum up all these questions, I thought that the meaning, like, of she's saying that, like, woman needs a room and what was it, money and room to write, was like, is talking about equal treatment.
Mm-hmm.
Because, like, basically, like, all those books has a lot of, like, feminist concepts in it, so, like, or characteristics, so, like, so that means the woman needs to have equal treatment and, like, in a way of, like, accessibility of the, like, public places and also the equal incomes. So let's get into it.
Room of one's own.
Yeah.
I liked this one. I thought it was difficult at first because I didn't know what she was getting at. Like, I didn't know that it was going to be kind of in an essay format. I thought it was going to be like a novel. But then, like, once I got into it, I really liked it. And I think she brought up some good points. Also, I think she's so sassy. Like, when she's saying, like, all these books that have been written by men, she's like, with no other qualifications and they're not women, like, burn.
Also, Una was talking about how men write about women, but women don't write about men. It's like, well, obviously, women are more interesting.
Yeah. So that was fun. And I think that, like, a room of one's own kind of means not even just, like, a room, a physical room. It's just, like, room is in space. Like, they need, like you were saying, they need all the stuff. What am I trying to say? The tools to get them there. Like, they need, instead of having a glass ceiling, if you will, they need, like, room to grow.
Yeah, I thought it was also not literal, room of one's own meant space. I mean, it could be an actual room. And I think the the different ways you could view a room of one's own is if you are, like, in a relationship with a man, like if you live with a man as a woman, then you could have an actual place where you do your stuff. Or if you're single and just doing your thing, that's also like your own room. So it doesn't have to be like an actual room, but you could be anywhere doing it. Independence.
Yeah, independence.
That's what I was trying to get at. Independence.
Yeah.
And then the money thing.
The money thing.
The 50 pounds or something?
500.
Yeah, 500
was it
pounds.
500 pounds?
I thought that
a
was
year.
is interesting because she's talking about, like, oh, I'm able to do all this stuff because I just get money.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
When you grow from dead aunt?
Yeah, she just freaking died.
Yeah. And I thought it didn't just apply to women, Like, it was talking about I, like, worked all day to basically get nothing. And it was like, why didn't this person leave me money?
Yeah.
I forget what it was. Like, why didn't my mom make enough money for, like, to provide for me? It's like, well, she's just, like, getting by. I think that just in general, like, men and women, if you're just working to just subsist, you're just trying to get along, then you're not going to be able to write, because if you're writing, you're going to be able to think about things that aren't just survival. You're going to be able to think about different concepts. It's like one of my friends was telling me about how when he would tract on his mission, he would just, like, go talk to people. He'd be like, oh, have you ever thought about, like, what happens when you die and, like, all this stuff? And a lot of people would just be like, no, because they were just, like, in a lot of poverty. Yeah, and they're just, like, doing their life. They didn't really think, like, oh, like, what happens,
Yeah.
It's like a
when you don't have
privilege
any free time, it's like hard to philosophize. It's just like on your grind.
Yeah. So I thought that like a woman needs money needs money in a room of her own to write. I think it could also apply to men and just people in general.
Yeah. I also thought it was interesting when they were like bashing the moms, like, what were you doing this whole time? Like, now I'm on my own, you know? Like, I think it's kind of a call for like people to stop relying on everybody else. Like, oh, if only like my aunt had left me money, or if only my mom had tried to get me into college, or like save the money so that I could go to college. Like, I think Virginia Woolf was very much like, I am very lucky to have had this aunt who has died, but like, ladies, let's
go death.
Yay for horseback riding accidents, right? Is that
yeah,
how she died? Anyway, yeah, I just thought that was interesting. She was like, that sucks, but like, we have to move on. We can't still just be.
Yeah, it sounds like the reason why women couldn't write more novels than men is because women was like, at that time it was really hard to establish the like constant income and also the social status. That's why the women's always trying to do something like to, I don't know, raise kids and also do some house chores. But like, if women finally become independent, then they can write it. So like, I guess she's trying to say that not because women, but because the status like where women's are in. So,
you know, thinking about this, I don't think that, like I said, it had to do with independence before, but I don't think she's really independent because she depends on like the money, you know?
Yeah.
So maybe it's just like you need to get to a place of financial security so you don't have to worry about, again, like not just surviving. So the idea is still the same, but minus the independence thing. I don't think
sounds like you need a sponsor.
Yeah.
You need a sponsor.
Yes, get sponsored. That's the whole.
Well, because when she talks about like social ties and like the way that men view women, I think that type of independence, like independence of thought, and like, and you're not just being controlled. And like when they're talking about money, and it's like, if women make money, they would just give it to their husbands to like spend more wisely, or whatever. I think you need independence from that, but she still is like dependent on the money. So basically, you need to be able to
don't quit your day job. That's what she's saying. Yeah.
Or maybe have stable, like, monies keep going so that she can write stuff.
Yeah.
Wait.
get some passive income going.
Yeah.
Follow Warren Buffett. She actually did talk about the stock exchange quite a bit, but I didn't really think that's how that fit into it. She was just talking about it. Yeah. So I'm conflicted.
What is she saying? Virginia.
Okay, let me just work through this in my brain.
Okay.
So, independence of thought is important because it allows them to be more free, and I think that comes through in her style because it's just like all over the place, honestly. Like there's so many like tangents and digressions. Like if you were trying to write a textbook, you know, it would totally not sound like this because everything would be boiled down to like, these are the facts, but this is all very like her philosophy on everything, like while it's going through this kind of story. And she's talking about like, I'm going to defy this convention now. And then she like talks about the food.
Yeah.
Like, I think that you definitely need independence of thought. And in that sense, like a room of one's own, like your room is your psyche, and it's like not affected by outside pressure, or at least not so much that you can't create something original. So tapping into something that's like personal is like a room of one's own. It's like carving out a space in your brain.
Yeah.
For creation.
Yes.
But the financial thing, I still don't know. It's like she still relies on the money. So basically, get a life sponsor, marry rich.
Maybe she's just like
something.
You know, I really don't know because I get all this money. So
I was just like, but I'm doing it.
trying to do my best. Yeah, I don't think the room, because I think rooms a lot of times like symbolize cages or like physical boundaries that hold us in. But like I think she's talking about a room being like freedom. Like I don't know. I feel like my room is like an escape, like at home. If I was ever just like, yeah, I just want some time to myself, you know? So it's not necessarily like we need to keep ourselves in and like shove everybody out. It's just, yeah, like you said, carving out the space in my brain. You're out of the frame, my friend.
Fine.
Just mountains and dough.
The audio is what's important.
Yeah.
It's true.
Not graded on our face, hopefully.
I mean, we'd get an A if it was.
You're right.
Anyway, what were you gonna say?
No, I was
Please
trying.
grade us on our faces.
I just trying to keep thinking like how to wrap this thing up. Like, obviously, like there was like some kind of like talks about like the difference between men and women. So like it's kind of like she's obviously like pointing out man that like they have more authority than the women. So like I guess totally think that she's also a feminist in that way. But like especially when it comes to a part that it says I just bought a book because I need a physical visual aid in the electronic devices. Sorry about that. But there's like a part that says England is under the rule of patriarchy. So that was really interesting for me to see. And then she started to bring them up like a guy, for example, like a job he has or jobs he has. Like he was like let's see. Like he was the foreign secretary and a judge, and he was a cricketer, and then stuff like that. Like there were all those like I don't know, famous and like rich societies jobs. But like when the book keeps going, and then like the Virginia Woolf also suggests like what jobs does women have is like mostly like. Let's see. She just like describing like women jobs as a living by caging odd jobs from newspapers, reporting a donkey show here or a wedding there, or on a few pounds by addressing envelopes, or reading the old ladies making artificial flowers and like teaching like children in kindergarten and stuff like that. So like she's also definitely criticizing that period of let's see, like gender discrimination too. Like women are treated really ill. So like she also wants to say that like if woman can write, it has to be independence into the gender too. I think. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
No. I don't like. I understand like your build up, but I don't understand the conclusion. Like, what's the like Virginia Woolf is trying to say?
Virginia Woolf is trying to say that because of this gender like differences, like how the social structure treated like two genders like differently, it's really a hard form.
In terms of like occupation.
Yeah, occupations.
Okay.
Yeah, like in terms of like earning the money.
Okay.
Because if you want to earn money, you need to have a higher jobs, like higher ranking of jobs. But like since women cannot get that kind of jobs, so like it's really hard for women to get enough space and money to write.
Okay. Cool. Yeah, that's like it ties into the one thing that she says. I forget what the exact quote is, but it's something like having money inspires risk, or something like not having money makes you not want to risk, like go and risk whatever. So like how having money enables writing is that when you're writing, you, I would imagine, want to be risky. I mean, if you're being really safe, it'll be something that's stale. Like if you're just going to be like, oh, I'm just going to follow exactly what the conventions of the time are, then it'll be a stale piece of writing. Or if you're saying like, I want to have a story where nothing changes and the character is just really boring. Like that's just going to be a boring story. I mean, maybe. Probably. I'm sure there's some
Most likely.
exceptions, but in general,
Then I'm a boring character.
Oops.
I don't think I'd be a very good character.
Me either. I work too hard at things.
Who's not the main character?
I'd be
Be
the
a
great
side
best
character.
friend. Yeah.
Like the sage friend. You're like, hey.
Or me just like a passerby person.
But yeah, so money inspires risk, and risk
Yes.
brings growth and also creativity.
And what was she saying when she went to like her friend's house for tea? Do you remember that?
Yeah.
By the
See if I can
fire.
know something.
They were sitting by
Oh.
the fire.
Yeah, I think I remember. It was like a second chapter.
Yeah. Well, and I think she was just talking about her friends. It's kind of linked in with like the women couldn't go to college because like it was so expensive and they couldn't get money. And like how unfortunate her friend felt that she couldn't go to college, I think. And anyway, there might be a gold nugget in there.
So wait, what was the point of that?
No, I didn't know. I don't have, because my computer is the one recording, I don't have the references. So if you guys could look that up, I don't know. Like, what was her friend saying to Virginia Woolf? It was a question. Can you control F? Or
It's gonna take a while.
fire?
Okay, talk about something else. I'll pull it up.
Okay. Sorry, Dr. Hancock. My computer is the one recording. So what have we talked about so far? What do we need to talk about?
Well, we've talked about money. We've talked about space, and it's like, how does it enable writing? We've kind of also covered that. So let's just talk about other ideas in the book.
Okay.
Yeah.
I think her style was interesting to me, like, because in the beginning she was starting with nature, and I was like, oh boy, this is gonna be another like Victorian, very, I don't know, like flowery novel with but like then she gets to the library. Like chapter 2 flew by for me because she was being so sassy and like so
Yeah.
good.
Yeah,
She
I
was
liked
like,
2 a lot better than I liked 1. It just
one
made
was a
more
lot of
sense.
setup.
Yeah, it was like
Where did she talk to
Clear
her friend about
enough.
tea?
I think she went for tea. Oh yeah, and then she was talking about like, why don't we ever talk about food in our novels?
oh yeah, it was the chapter 1. That's why she started to talk about the luncheon.
Yeah,
Okay, Smith's Tea Party.
I think so.
They say to themselves as they go into the room, I am the superior of half the people here, and it is thus that they speak with that self-confidence, that self... Oh, right, okay, so this was all about, like,
Yeah.
men, and it was, like, why did they always have to assert their dominance? Is like, because... Or they always have to assert women's inferiority because it's a way to, like, protect their own dominance or, like, their perception of, like, their dominance. Because, like, if they don't constantly do it, then they'll, like, feel like it'll slip away or whatever.
Yeah.
Is that what you're talking about?
Yes.
Okay.
That was a section. And like, can't remember why she brought up the food, but I just thought it was really funny that she was like, and we don't even talk about food. Like I go to a luncheon, or like the characters in a book. It was like she was critiquing all of the previous writings before that, you know? Like,
Yeah, I think so too. Yeah, it was kind of like weird for me to like start reading about all the luncheons in the menu. It's like, is there any hidden meanings behind this part? So I was
Yeah.
trying to say, okay, so there was like a bird. So what does bird mean? But like, yeah,
but
basically it didn't mean anything. Just like criticizing the previous work of literature.
It is a curious fact that novelists have a way of making us believe that luncheon parties are invariably memorable for something very witty that was said or for something very wise that was done. But they seldom spare a word for what was eaten.
yes.
And here we go.
There they are. So is that like a dig on the men who are writing? Like,
It's
do
just
you
like-
think?
I think so. Like at the time, the majority of writers were men.
Yeah, I'm just like, y'all get together. Use
Yeah.
descriptions.
I mean, it says novelists, but I don't know if it says before when she's talking about novels, but I guess that would make sense because if most of them were novelists.
Just wondering why that was brought up in particular. I didn't really find a meaning.
Well, I just think it's part of the whole like idea of a room of one's own. Like, if you have enough time to think about whether or not people talk about the food at luncheons, then you have enough free time to write. You know, like she's just going through all these like it's basically like stream of consciousness, but it's not. It's like here's like kind of this path, but it's also like going everywhere on the way. You know, so part of it was just like, let's explore this idea, and it doesn't have to be like, and here's what I think about it, because I think even the beginning she talks about she's trying to figure out the women and the fictions they tell, the fictions about women and what they're like, and that was like the three, like the interaction of all those three is like what her story's about. But then she doesn't say like, she doesn't assert her opinion. She says she would rather show how you got the opinion, and that's like a better way to do it.
Yeah. Thanks, Jackson.
It's the importance of narrative in our lives. It's like
podcast.
That's why Donald Trump is president, because he had a story that he would tell, and Hillary Clinton she was just smarter, and she would just say like facts and assertions, and he was just like, here's this story, you know. And
but all those stories are
he's gonna be in history books, guys.
I don't know. He could be one of the forgettable ones.
No way, just
kidding.
Like the guy after Abraham Lincoln.
Is it like Rutherford B. Hayes?
Yeah, there's a few of them that are like just totally forgotten.
Yeah.
Like
Dead to
Pierce.
But isn't it too shocking to forget?
True.
Yeah.
Now we start talking about Trump.
And like Virginia Woolf,
yes, bringing it back,
makes tangents sometimes. We also make tangents because, well, doesn't really count as free time because we're here for class. But, you know, we have enough resources at our disposal to work through these ideas. Bam. Okay. So that's how that tied together. So anyway, she goes on tangents.
Yes.
What's the point of that? And she's telling a story rather than making arguments that are very clear.
Which is more of a modernist thing, right? Because the Victorians would be like, this is bad and this is why it's bad. Hello, Christians. And then like the modernists were more like, slip it in there, you know? Like, form your own opinion, but here's my story that's geared towards my opinion, you know?
No, can you explain a little bit more?
So, Victorians, I guess, is what I'm learning in this course, they would state their morals. Like, every story at the end had, like, a, you know, like...
Here's why we're here.
Here's why we're here. Here's why I wrote this book. You know, like, killing people is bad, or, like, whatever they want to say. Whereas, like, Virginia Woolf, she's never, like, Wolf. She's never like, you know what a room of one's own actually means? Like, she just tells her story, gives it to the readers, like, decipher it how you will.
Yeah.
You know? It's modernist.
Yeah.
It's annoying.
It's kind of, yeah, like when I read the first few pages, like, she started to break that up, like, the women in fiction.
Yeah.
And, like, I'm thinking about this this topic, and then, like, she started to, bring them out, like, three kinds of parts, like fiction, how the fiction and women related to it, and then, like, at the end of, like, first like 3 or 4 pages, she started saying, but I don't even know how to explain it. So and then, like, here's the story from the Oxbridge, and, like,
yeah, like, what? Or she's like, I was thinking about something, but now I can't remember what I was thinking about. Bye. And then just, like, didn't bring it up again.
Yeah, and then she brings it up like a fictional woman character, and it's like, you can call it in, like, Mary Benton or Mary Seton, whatever you want, and then, like, she's thinking about women in fiction, and then she just kicked out from the university because she's poor. And, like, like, okay.
Yeah. It's like it's very story based. The only thing that I could find that was the closest thing to just a direct assertion was thought to call it by a prouder name than it deserved, had let its line down into the stream. It swayed minute after minute hither and thither among the reflections and the weeds, letting the water lift it and sink it until, you know, the little tug, the sudden conglomeration of an idea at the end of one's line, and then the cautious hauling of it in and the careful laying it out. And it's like a question. So it's supposed to be a question, I guess, but it seemed like it was almost
A statement.
a coherent, like, this is an argument.
She's like saying, like, you know how you like have an idea?
Yeah.
Pretty much. Like, that's her thing. It's like, remember how you think of ideas sometimes?
Yeah. I just thought that, like, the letting the thoughts into the stream by your line, like, there's a stream, which I guess
consciousness.
you could. Okay, so. Yeah, so you put your ideas into the stream of consciousness. Like, you have some conscious part of it, but then there's, like, the unconscious part that's just, like, takes it wherever it can go. And that's how that ties into, like, the having a room of your own. Because you have the, I don't know, the whatever at your disposal, like the time, the space, to massage the ideas into existence. You know, you're just, like, working through them. And, like, and you're also allowing, like, the stream to
reel it in, baby.
To maybe catch a, maybe you'll catch a fish or you'll just catch an old boot. And you're like,
yeah, you're like, that was a piece of crap idea, and then you throw back in the stream.
Yeah. Sometimes you catch an old boot.
Yeah. Well, should we wrap this up?
I feel like we've not been going that long.
Yeah,
I feel like there's other stuff we could talk about.
All right.
I still have a bunch of quotes that I haven't got to.
Well, geez, throw them out there.
All right, guys, in no particular order. Okay. So she quotes Tennyson, and then she's just like, "Was that what women hummed at luncheon parties before war?" So I think that, like, she's not asking a question for a rhetorical, like, she's not, like, for a rhetorical purpose. She's not trying to argue something. She's just showing something, and she's actually just thinking about it. At least I didn't find any direct meaning in what she was quoting and then why she asked that question. I think she was just really working through these ideas.
Yeah.
And that's, like, independence of thought.
Yeah.
Yeah, she's just throwing out.
Yeah, there's, like, a couple of questions about that one too, like in the starting from chapter 2, like she said, why did men drink wine and women water? And then she started to throw another question, like, what was, like, one sex so prosperous and the other so poor? What effect have property on fiction? What conditions are necessary for the creations of works of art? And then she doesn't, like, try to give the answer for all these questions, but she just, like, unconsciously goes to, like,
yeah. And I think, like, by asking these questions, they're, like, thought-provoking. Like, I don't think she's actually wondering. I think that, like, when you're teaching somebody, you ask them questions, even though you may know the answer. She's like, why? You know, like, making us think.
Yeah. And then she's also making herself think, you know, she's
yeah.
I'm just in the middle of this thought. It's like casting out the thing into the stream, her own stream, and also everybody else's, because we're reading this.
It's like, let's think together.
Yeah. And a similar quote to that is, all was dim yet intense too, as if the scarf which the dusk had flung over the garden were torn asunder by a star or sword, the gash of some terrible reality leaping as its way out there of the heart of the spring. And then it's like, for youth, and then it just cuts. It's like, here was my soup. It's like you're on the way to something and just stops. It's like, oh, soup.
Postmodernism. like a little bit.
Yeah. At least the foundations of postmodernism.
Yeah.
Like, I don't want to write this anymore. And then she just starts writing something else.
Yeah.
Quote number 3.
All right.
The human frame being what it is, heart, body, and brain all mixed together and not contained in separate compartments as they will be no doubt in another million years, a good dinner is of great importance to good talk. I just thought that was really cool, because they're like, what if brains and stuff could all just be in separate compartments? Yeah. It's like, why do we rely? It's basically saying, why do we rely so much on good dinner to talk well?
Have dinner. I mean, good ideas, not dinner. Why do we rely so heavily on food to have dinner, you know?
Here's my theory, guys. When you're hungry, you're angry. And you won't talk good if you're angry or hungry. You know, like I'm pretty hungry right now. I don't think I'm doing my best job at talking.
Yeah, it's kind of called hangry, right?
Yeah, hanger is an actual disease.
Okay, guys. Quote number 4.
One last one. You get one last one.
Well, I was just trying to keep it going.
All right. Well, let's.
But considering how few people really wish women to be educated, it is a good deal. And that was a quote that she had. It was on the online version. I don't know if it was in that, but it was like a quote from Lady Emily Davis in Girton College. And it like 30,000 pounds was the amount. And then back then, I'm sure that was like a ton more. Now I don't know what the conversion rate to dollars is, but a lot of money.
It's about the same. Might be worth more.
But it's just like, but considering how few people really wish women to be educated, it is a good deal. Like I just thought that was an interesting preface.
It's like they're just setting these boundaries so that women can't get in. You feel like, oh, they can't make that much. Let's set it that high,
Yeah.
Yeah, everything I have to face on this textbook.
Okay, I got it. So how that ties into other things that we've said is like the idea of like money allowing risk, It's like if nobody wants you to be educated, or like society wants you to be not educated, and then you get educated against society's will, that's like an act of subversion. So she's like saying that it's important to be subversive in what you do, especially if it's like education. And it's like you should get that education not just because you'll learn from it, but because it's an act of going against society and like changing the flow of how people think. It's like I'm an example against the standard. So I'm sure that, well, I think that that's what she's saying. Money has to, or that's a way that money allows you to like create or write. It's like if you have money, you can risk. And if you can risk, you can go against society.
So ladies, let's make some money.
That took a while.
I think it makes sense. Still processing.
Yeah, like Virginia Woolf.
Yeah, like I'm processing still. All right, what's another quote, Jackson?
Here's something that's close to a argument again. So This is the beginning of 2. She says, one must strain off what was personal and accidental in all these impressions and so reach the pure fluid, the essential oil of truth. So to me, that means like when you're writing, you have like your personal life or whatever, but you're also trying to connect that to some higher moral principle or some like higher human experience. Like it doesn't have to be a moral principle, but at least something that's relative to everybody else. Because if you're like, oh, dude, isn't it weird when you like nobody does that, and it's just like, yeah, that's weird and not. I don't understand you. Like there's no truth in that. Although there is like we're all weird in our own ways, but
mold
eating mold.
No, and I think that like kind of is like find your truth and like try to boil it down. Because like first draft, you're usually like, this is good, whatever, and then you boil it down or like edit it so that you find the truth. Like it's not always first. Does that make sense? Like if you're writing, you write the first draft, you're like, this isn't as close as I want it to be,
Hey, you just start off with like a lump of coal.
Yeah, and you just chip away and compress.
And it's like a diamond. You're just chipping away, but it's a lot of coal.
It's like it's a lot.
That is the truth. Okay. So I think answers are like a destination, and it's like goes back to the old adage, like it's all about the journey, But like I feel like for Virginia Woolf it is like all about the journey, because there's not really like, oh, this is going towards this thing. I mean, she in the beginning she says like, this is where this is going. It's going to be about women and their
struggle,
like their fiction and their fiction about them, but it's all just very windy. And in that windy process, She's trying to glean truth from the universe.
And that's why we need a room of our own and money.
Yeah. Let's go back through the main points just so it's a little bit clearer. So,
Okay.
so specifically, the room of one's own. It means,
Not captivity.
yeah,
It means
Free.
space to grow.
whether
Flourish.
it's literal or metaphorical,
Yes.
whether it has to do with independence of thought or physical space or not being oppressed by social norms and money.
Money equals risk equals better creativity.
Period.
Yes. And also just like disposable time. Like if you don't have to work constantly and you're just
Oh,
getting
yeah.
by, then like you have the time, which kind of contributes to making a room of one's own. Like you have your own independence of time. Like you're not bogged down by, hey, you gotta be a maid at whatever, the school or
Yeah.
house.
Cool.
So, Dr. Hancock, give us a thumbs up. Comment down below.
If you
Subscribe.
want to.
Subscribe.
So
Xeno.
Also, we put out a podcast, Doe edited and filmed, and Jackson and I were on it. So if you want to check it out, that'd be cool. It's Xeno with an X podcast. Just had to plug that in there.
Yeah, check it out. Facebook or YouTube. Maybe you'll be on it someday. We'll ask you next week.
You're right.
Ooh.
Consider this an invitation. Goodbye.